Hey guys, this video is on Proposition 23 for the November election in California, the year 2020. So right off the bat, I'm going to say the California conservative vote, I believe, should be no on 23. And I'm going to get into all the reasons why, but if that's sufficient for you, the basic answer is no, because of, well, we're saying no to more bureaucracy. Okay, now I'm going to get into all the other reasons for this extensive video here. So if that's all you need, I have some links in the description. You can review them. One of the other things too is I received one of these doorknob voter guides for the Democrat Party, and of course they are endorsing it. They're saying yes on 23, so maybe that's enough to tell you not to vote for 23. So we're going to go over the reasons why Californians should vote no on 23. We have gotten our California general election voter guides, and so I'm just going to go through it real quick. Also, I did receive a number of these flyers in the mail on, what you should vote for regarding the propositions. This one is from the National Tax Limitation Committee. I never know whether to trust these organizations or not, but this one says no on 23. Okay, so that's one there. This is a Woman's Voice newsletter. They said no on 23. That's two. What's this? Cop voter guide. No on 23. Okay. Not that cops know anything or any of these other groups know anything about it. This one is continuing the Republican Revolution. Also, with a little picture of Reagan on it. I don't always trust these either, but they're also saying no on 23. So, that's 4 different flyers saying no on 23. But again, you got to study it yourself and figure out the reasons. And, all these flyers could be from organizations that are all related to each other, or it could be just false advertising, But I do look at them because I want to find out what are the real reasons they're trying to get us to vote on these things. It's all about consent. They want our consent to do things. And honestly, I've always looked at propositions as a mechanism for the people to correct things that their government, that their Congresses, or their separate legislatures have passed that are not doing the people any good. But what I see in California is that the propositions have become a mechanism for non-governmental organizations to gain a foothold of control, under the guise of, private organizations. But that's what I see here on this proposition as I dig into it. So essentially, they're rather than going through this, I will say this. Most of the people that are in healthcare are against 23. The people that are for 23, it says here that they are basically a special interest group that they're not even really involved with how a dialysis center works, essentially. So just going to the longer arguments in the California voter guide, we can see that the people that are backing 23 was actually some guy from Southern Christian Association or something of that nature. Here we go. Southern Christian Association. Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Southern California. And again, when somebody's walking around calling themselves a Christian, I sometimes wonder. But basically, one of the main things that they're talking about is sanitation of the centers, which I have to ask, is anybody in California hearing about, like, I'd have to ask this for people that are in the dialysis. Obviously, you're going to have, the whole healthcare industry is, it's bad however you look at it, So healthcare is highly regulated already, and they just keep trying to regulate it more and more. But obviously, there's issues. But the questions I have is, like, is this something that we hear about, like, a lot? Like, I don't hear about it in my day-to-day life, about people getting so many infections from these dialysis centers that the government has to come in and, like, say, we need to make sure that these centers are sanitary, and we would require that a doctor be present there. Okay. So that's one of the things they're saying, is if you pass 23, that they would require that a doctor be present. It's more bureaucracy, okay? And that one of the things they talk about is that Proposition 23 will end discrimination against patients because of the type of insurance they have, okay? Now, I found that quite interesting because I thought, well, what's that all about? Anyway, long story short, it's all about Medicare. Basically saying that, if certain patients, if all they can get is Medicare, because basically, well, one of the things is that in California, when you get end-stage renal failure, end-stage kidney disease, you can automatically apply for Medicare, okay? So this whole thing is a Medicare argument, okay? Basically. But let's go over it a little bit more here. There's a website here, the No on Prop 23 website. First, let's look at the Yes on 23 website. This is how they market it, clean, safe clinic, Yes on 23. I guess we could look at this video here real quick.
80,000 Californians depend on dialysis treatment. That means 3 trips per week to a clinic where specialized machines clean their blood, doing the work of the kidneys to keep them alive. But often those clinics are dirty, with machines not properly maintained, resulting in health risks, infections. These clinics aren't required to have a doctor on site or report their infection rates, putting patients in danger. And technicians and nurses are having to care for so many patients, they can't safely keep up. All so dialysis corporations can make bigger profits. You can cast a life-saving vote by voting yes on 23. We can put doctors in clinics to make sure treatment is safe and effective. Keep clinics accountable, reporting infections, and not just close if there isn't enough profit, leaving patients with no options for treatment. Whoever you are, wherever you live, no matter your health insurance, every patient deserves a clean, safe clinic. It's the right choice. Yes on 23.
Okay, so a lot of propaganda there. Gosh, it's so sickening. Anyway, okay, require a doctor on site. First of all, why? I mean, what makes it any more safer to have a doctor on site? This is a specialized process. Those people that are involved, they know what they're doing. They know how to handle it. They've been trained to do so. Okay. And again, I'm telling you, this all comes down to Medicare. This has nothing to do with patient safety. It has nothing to do with keeping a place sanitary. Because I can guarantee you, even if we were to pass this Proposition 23, what you would see is a quick decline in the cleanliness of these places, because number one, whenever the government gets a hold of something, I mean, look at the Veterans Administration and how they drove that into the ground. We're trying to continue to fix that whole situation right now with President Trump, and the horrible things of the whole Veterans Administrations. That enough should be able to convince you to say no on 23. Anyway. So they require a doctor on site, and I would say they've been doing this for a long time. They've been trying to get this thing passed for a couple years now, 2 or 3 years in California, but we keep voting it down. Okay. But they keep coming back. They refine it, they tweak it. They're like, oh, another generation coming up. We'll get these people to vote it in. It's all part of a greater strategy on the part of, well, globalism, I believe, and so this whole thing about requiring infection reporting is, sort of like a scare tactic. But like I said, I mean, are we hearing about like horrible cases of infection? Is it like such a crisis that we have to take care of this? Again, it's just like a false flag right there. Keeps clinics open. Well, this is actually the opposite of what's going to happen. It's gonna close down clinics. This is the same thing. This is all tied into like Obamacare and what they call the Affordable Care Act. It's basically limiting private insurance. Okay, so it's this war. It's basically a war against government Medicare versus private insurance. Okay, you got to ask yourself that question. Why, when you turn 65, does the government force you to get onto Medicare? So that's going to have to change too. Everybody's going to get taken care of. We're all going to have wonderful healthcare insurance in the future. But, Medicare down the road is not going to be the answer. Years and years and years and years from now, we're going to have to figure out a better way than Medicare, because Medicare right now is like, we're giving our money to the government, every month they take off their little piece of what they want for Medicare. And what are they doing with that money? Well, we're seeing that a lot of the monies that California has been taking is getting into the hands of the wrong individuals. Okay. So this thing right here prevents discrimination. Dialysis clinics should provide the same level of care for all patients, regardless of the type of insurance they have or the community they live in. Prop 23 will ensure everyone gets equal treatment. Well, this is all this whole equality nonsense, and throwing up this whole word, this discrimination dirty word, and then to say like the type of insurance. Well, they're referring to Medicare. They don't even mention Medicare in this, because they know they throw that up there, people will be like, oh, what's that all about, Medicare? Then you do a little more digging, you'll find out that's what this is all about. That's what it's all about. So we go to the No on 23 website, and you can see, approximately 80,000 Californians with kidney failure rely on dialysis to stay alive. Prop 23 would put dialysis patients' lives at risk and hurt all Californians by making us wait longer to see our doctors and increasing healthcare costs by hundreds of millions annually. And that will happen. I mean, there's a reason why we voted this down, multiple times in California, and they just keep bringing it back. That's what I can't stand. The fact that they just keep bringing it back and they keep, turning. Let's see if we can get him to do it now. To me, that's like, okay, they're under the guise of these non-governmental, or corporation, organizations or whatever, special interest group. I mean, who knows if these are foreign interests that are, manipulating our governments, in ways that we don't want to. Basically, we don't want more bureaucracy. We want less government involved in healthcare. We want less government involved in commerce. This right here, patients oppose. You can watch those ads. I won't play those, but essentially, Prop 33 would unnecessarily increase health care costs, make the doctor shortage worse for all Californians by moving thousands of practicing doctors into non-caregiving roles in dialysis clinics. There's a bunch of different things here. Prop 23 dangerously reduces access to care, putting vulnerable patients at serious risk. By moving neurologists and experienced physician assistants out of hospitals and offices where a significant amount of our most vital work is done, Prop 23 will put all neuropathy patients at risk. These are different organizations. Okay, so here's a little history. Here's a little history of California on this whole thing with dialysis clinics. Okay, October 15th, 2019. This is last year, okay? to 2 days to the date. Actually, today's the 17th. This was October 15th. This article comes out on MedTech Dive. Brief. California bill to end excessive dialysis profits becomes law. This is so grabbled here. Basically, it says California Governor Gavin Newsom on Sunday signed legislation that aims to stop dialysis providers from steering Medicare eligible patients to organizations that pay their premiums if they sign up for private health insurance. Assembly Bill 290 limits reimbursement rates to Medicare levels for certain care providers, including dialysis and addiction treatment clinics, to discourage the practice of steering. It also requires health plans to accept patient premium payments from charities. Fresenius Medical Care North America called the bill, quote, flawed legislation that will hurt dialysis patients who rely on charitable premium assistance. That's an important aspect of this too. There's a reason that these people are getting charitable premium assistance, okay? Now, the California new law accomplishes what the insurance industry and groups, including the Service Employees International Union, have pushed for at the national level. These groups want HHS to reconsider policies they argue allow financially interested third parties such as the American Kidney Fund, okay, to steer patients into commercial coverage to the benefit of dialysis providers that profit from higher reimbursement. Okay, let me put that in plain English. There's an organization called the American Kidney Fund, okay? And they are helping people that need kidney dialysis by helping them pay their premiums of private insurance for dialysis clinics rather than going on to Medicare. Okay, so right away there's this battle between Medicare, private insurance. There's this third party, which is a nonprofit that says, oh, you can't afford the private insurance. We'll give you, we'll help you pay that premium with the private insurance rather than going on to Medicare. Okay. Why? Well, because some of these insurances are going to probably, I'm guessing, this is just me, are going to have better coverage for other treatments, whereas Medicare is not going to pay all those things. They're just going to pay the very least amount of what they can pay, because that's how government is. They're just going to say, we give you nothing, 10% or whatever. I don't know what it is. I'm just making up a number. Okay. Let me get back to the article here. End-stage renal disease patients qualify for Medicare anybody who is an end-stage renal disease patient qualify for Medicare. Yet, large dialysis centers owned by DaVita and Fresenius in California were being reimbursed more than 4 times what they would have received through the federal program. Oh, isn't that horrible of them? Isn't that horrible that they're getting the money that they need to pay for their equipment, for their employees, for their buildings, for their taxes, their California taxes? So the way they paint this is like, oh, it's so horrible that these companies are getting 4 times more. They're such big evil corporations that are, they shouldn't get all that money. Those must be nice that they're getting all those profits. So they're like, so it just says here they're getting 4 times what they would have received through the federal program. So the Medicare is like, we're only going to give you 1/4 of what you need. For the elderly and disabled, Democratic State Assembly member Jim Wood, who sponsored the state's bill, said in a statement after the Democratic governor signed the legislation. Okay. Dialysis patients in the state were steered to commercial insurers by the American Kidney Fund. Okay, that's the other organization they're painting as an evildoer. This is the one they're painting as an evildoer, the one that's giving money to patients so that they can pay premiums on private insurance. You guys are so evil. You're giving money to kidney patients. Which receives more than 80% of its revenue from DaVita and Fresenius. Okay, so they're saying, see, they're getting money from. It's like a Ponzi scheme. They're look. It's basically these companies coming against the government of California that are making things hard for them. I mean, otherwise they take their business elsewhere. They'll go out of state. They'll pull their businesses out of state. They'll shut down if they can't be profitable. And they're like, well, we'll actually just, pay these other funds. Like, I'm sure a lot of these other companies, as part of their corporate responsibility, are like, we're going to give back to the community. We're going to give X number of dollars per year to the American Kidney Fund. And then they're going to turn around and they're going to actually help people with kidney disease pay their premiums for private insurance. What's wrong with that? Like, okay. All right. So anyway, you get the gist of it. Okay. So let's go on. There's another article here that I wanted to read. It was August 23rd, 2019, last year. The dialysis duopoly spins big to protect profits in California. Oh my gosh. If you're doing business in California, you better not be making any profits. Oh my gosh. See, that's when I look at this and I'm like, is this really like for real? Like, are people just so, like, are these special interest groups so obsessed with people that want to make profits? Like, they're like, but they're causing other people to suffer. They're discriminating against their Medicare. What? They're not discriminating against Medicare. There's actually this other organization that's helping them pay premiums to keep the government's hand out of their business. This Prop 23 is what they're like. Well, you're going to have one of our doctors there at every center, and we're going to be doing regular inspections on the sanitary conditions of the place, you know, and you're going to have to take the Medicare whether you like it or not. You cannot discriminate against insurance type. So again, this all comes back to Medicare versus the private insurance, and ultimately the Medicare for all argument, okay? So this is like, they're calling this whole thing a scam to get patients to switch from Medicare to private insurance for dialysis care. And so they're saying that the bill that they were going to pass in California has got these companies on the run. Of course, I mean, look at what California is doing to Uber and Lyft right now. And that's why I said, you know, one of those things on the Proposition 22, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to vote yes for the lesser of two evils, okay? There's a lot of bad things about Uber and Lyft that we could talk about. But for the sake of keeping them in our state, vote what is it? Vote yes on 23. Oh no, 22. I'm getting into other propositions now. Yes on 22 for the better of two evils. No on 23 because of bureaucracy. And also because we want to go against the globalists down the line. I mean, think about it. This is really, really, if you think about it in the context of COVID-19, it's like, what if this was passed before January of 2020? How many more people would have died in 2020 if the dialysis centers were on a decline and they were not able to operate because of the heavy restrictions put on them by the state of California? Maybe that was their plan. Maybe that was one of the plans. I don't know. Maybe. It's just so evil and maniacal. You know, and you know, of course they're still pushing for it because, you know, second wave next year, what's to come with the whole virus thing, and like, well, now they want to say, now because of COVID, we really want to keep things sanitary. But I don't even want to get into the whole thing about blood, and, you know, there's a whole thing about blood I'm not going to get into, you know, just going to say, you know, just putting it out there, you know, maybe something to do with that. Anyway, but DaVita and Fresenius, the dialysis giants, have placed enormous funds into opposing it. And so they're like, that's so bad of them to put funds into opposing this bill that California was trying to pass. Basically they're passing a bill against an entire industry, and then they're like surprised that they're opposing it. Yeah. Anyway, two companies dominate the American outpatient kidney dialysis market: Denver-based DaVita and German-owned Fresenius. But their stranglehold on this sector is currently being challenged by an obscure bill in California legislature. Again, this is 2019, last year. One, they poured a whopping $2.5 million into lobbying operations to oppose. Okay, the bill would crack down on a scam, the dialysis duopoly. This is their little alliteration. Dialysis duopoly has routinely engaged in, using a shadow charity called the American Kidney Fund. There it is again. To significantly juice their reimbursement rates from private insurance plans. Juice. Oh boy. The situation could well presage how medical providers might react to a Medicare for all single-payer system, fighting loopholes and workarounds to profit outside the established market. Again, all these words, profit, like it's a bad thing. In fact, dialysis is a great test case for this. Boy, this is something. Because thanks to a federal law nearly 50 years old, kidneys are the one American body part already governed under single payer. Yeah, that's something to do with this. If you get kidney disease, you can get Medicare. So dialysis, which involves the filtering of blood through external machine to balance minerals, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So there you have it. Go back to my notes. So this is a history. Now this American Kidney Fund, let's go to this article here. This tells you a little bit about this California revised bill to cap dialysis pay. This was in March 20th, 2019. This is even earlier. And, talking about that bill. And we get down here to the not-for-profit American Kidney Fund, which offers financial help to dialysis patients, including 4 private insurance plans if they choose, blasted the Revive measure. Of course they did. Yeah, they should. The fund's president and CEO, LaVarn Burton, said, because the reporting requirements conflict with the federal advisory governing disclosure rules for the patients who get help, the American Kidney Fund would leave California should the measure pass. Currently, it helps with premiums for about 3,700 California dialysis patients. Burton said more than half of its aid to California patients last year went to Medicare Part B, Medicare Advantage, and Medigap premiums. Okay, see, they're not just giving money to the patients that are getting private health insurance. They're also giving money to the people that are on Medicare Part B, because none of that the Medicare is providing is barely paying for what the dialysis should be paid for. And again, a lot of that has to do with the greater problems of healthcare that are a national problem, a worldwide problem. It has to do with greedy people taking money off the top, middlemen. It has nothing to do with this whole Medicare / private insurance. It should be private insurance. If it was private insurance solely and without any of all this other people that are middlemen, this is kind of like the whole thing with Hunter Biden. He gets paid X number of dollars per month for nothing. Just think on a wider scope. That's what's going on with healthcare, and that's why our healthcare is so damn expensive, I believe. Anyway, this gal added that if the proposal passed, it would quickly force the American Kidney Fund to stop helping California kidney patients, whether they were covered by Medicare or a private plan. So both DaVita and Fresenius are among the fund's corporate sponsors, listed as giving between $25,000 and $49,999 in 2016. So there you have it with that. And here's this one right here. I'm going to end it off with this, which basically has to do with the Medicare for All argument. And this was written March 23rd in 2019. The article titled "Medicare for All Would Abolish Private Insurance." There is no precedent in American history. Unlike Obamacare, emerging plans would sweep away the private health insurance system. What would that mean for companies, workers, the stock market, the cost of care? At the heart of the Medicare for All proposals championed by Senator Bernie Sanders and many Democrats is a revolutionary idea. Abolish private health insurance. Proponents want to sweep away our complex, confusing, profit-driven mess of a healthcare system and start fresh with a single government-run insurer that would cover everyone. But doing away with an entire industry would also be profoundly disruptive. The private health insurance business employs at least 500,000 people, covers about 25 million Americans, and generates roughly $1 trillion in revenues. $1 trillion in revenues. Its company stocks are a staple of the mutual funds that make up millions of American savings accounts. Okay, that's all I'm going to read with that. Basically, I'm just saying that this whole thing with Prop 23, no, because we don't want more bureaucracy in the centers, that's basically going to close them down. And you could read more of the arguments in the voter guide, which I suggest you do. And consider that the special interest groups that want you to vote yes have more in mind than just sanitation and preventing discrimination about certain types of insurance. This is a much greater strategic move on their part, because we have been making strides in coming against Obamacare and coming against all this stuff that's been decimating the private healthcare industry in America and in California. And so now they're trying to go through all these propositions to enact their, Medicare for All. They're trying to move the system inch by inch to a system that is against private insurance. And so what are these bigger companies for private healthcare doing? They're doing their best to survive is what they're doing. They're not evil corporations out for a profit. They're trying to survive in a hostile government atmosphere. So that's all I would say for that. No on 23. God bless everyone. And we'll have another one coming up soon.